Hello, my scrappy friends. Jen here with a layout for Tuesday's inspiration. You'll see here that the inspiration, this is from a couple of weeks ago, is conversational ideas, kind of in the form of little cards that you could cut out if you wanted to print that and cut them out. And it was sent by Hollie, who thought it might be fun for each of us to maybe pick one of those inspirational kind of conversation starters and create a layout with it. So if you go back and want to freeze the video, you can pause it and go ahead and take a look at all of the little cards, or head over to my Instagram, which is ksmom_scrapbooking, and I have it posted right there, so you can go and save it for yourself. And they're just, cute little conversation starters, essentially. So, you could use them if you were meeting someone for the first time, or if you wanted to. I know people do this with their kids sometimes, where they'll have like a Friday night dinner or whatever day of the week you choose to have this dinner, but you pick your dinner and then you have some of these conversation starters and you just have fun kind of, chatting with your kids or your family or friends or whomever it is. But they are kind of fun to use as a scrapbooking layout starter, because they kind of get you thinking about some of those stories that you may not tell. Sometimes you just don't think of them, really, to be honest. But if you're kind of stuck and you're not sure what you're going to scrapbook, this is the kind of thing that, just like a sketch or a scrap lift or a bingo card or any of those, this is another way that you could kind of get some ideas and pick one of these conversation starters and then tell that story on your layout. So we all went ahead and picked different squares, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to pick. I didn't necessarily have a photo that was exactly one of the options, one of the conversation starters. So I kind of picked a whole bunch of them. A lot of them were related to things like take a road trip, visit your hometown, or, tell your kids about your hometown, or share a story of a road trip you took where you got lost, that kind of thing. And so it just made me think of my travel albums, which I have several of them. Every second year or so, we like to drive home. We do a big road trip because for us, driving home is driving across the country. And we tend to take a few weeks. Like, it's usually, between 3 and 7 weeks, depending on how much time we can actually take off. And we like to travel around, and we always make sure that we do some of those nostalgic things with our kids that we did growing up. My husband and I are from the same place. And so, we have lots of stories of being able to share that kind of stuff. But then we also like to try to do new things that might be new since we've moved, or, those things where you live somewhere and so you take for granted the like touristy things that you might do in the place where you live. And so you never fully do those things. Now that we're adults and we're taking our kids back, we try to do some of those things too. So we just have lots of fun. And I thought this kind of ticks off several boxes. So this is where my brain went and where, I kind of pulled the inspiration. So this album is a Vicky Boutin album. It's the Discovery. Is it Discovery and Create? I think so. Yeah. Discover and Create, or Discovery and Create collection. So this is the album kit. So I have the album itself, which came with some papers and some pocket pages and that kind of thing. All the different kind of styles and orientations of pockets that you can get in that 6x8 album size. And then it also came with some stickers, like a whole 6x12 pack. So this acetate piece that you see me putting down, for example, that was all in it with some vellum and other stickers and things like that. And then I also have some of the papers, 12 by 12 papers, and a bunch of die cuts. I just have a whole bunch of elements that I got for this collection. And a lot of it is more on that discovery side. So there is a lot of travel and just like taking pictures, documenting, that kind of thing. There is also a bunch of create. You see a lot of like paintbrush motifs and pens and pencils and journaling and that kind of thing. So I use as much of that as I can, and anything that I really don't think is going to work well in this album, I've just been putting in with my other die cuts, kind of, where I think they might work better. But for the most part, I'm trying to use up this whole collection to get this trip documented. And the nice thing about this particular trip is that it wasn't just a trip with my family, my husband and my kids. It was a trip with all of my kids and my husband and my parents and my brother and his kids as well. So, it was really lovely to have the opportunity to travel and get to show them a whole bunch of our childhood. My kids, I think, get to go down and visit home a lot more often than my brother's kids do, because his job just doesn't really let him travel all that much in the summer. He's a golf pro, and so working as a head pro at a golf course, he's usually there all summer long. Who am I kidding? He's usually there all year long. But he doesn't always get the opportunity to take a lot of time off in the summer. And so this was like a nice rare opportunity where we went for I think we were gone for almost 4 weeks, and drove all the way from Alberta all the way through to Nova Scotia. So we did pretty much the whole country. So now his kids can say that they've been to every province except Newfoundland. My kids have been to every province. They just haven't been to the territories yet. So there is the road trip side of things that we can check off from the conversation ideas, and then being at home and getting to share where we grew up and the memories that we have and all those fun places is the other aspect of those little conversation ideas that I took. So this album definitely worked out perfectly, because I think it ticks off many, many boxes. And so just to share one of those memories, we've never fully been lost on a road trip. So I can't really say that I can share a time that we got lost on a road trip. It's kind of hard to get lost once you hop on Highway 1, which is the Trans-Canada. It literally cuts from one coast all the way to the other. And it's very well labeled. So we don't tend to get lost unless we do it intentionally, where we turn a corner and just drive and see where it takes us. But one thing I will say, if you ever have an opportunity to travel to PEI, that is definitely a place where you want to get lost. There's not too much that can go wrong as far as, you get so far off the beaten track you can't find your way home because the island is tiny. Everything is going to bring you back to somewhere that you'll be able to recognize. But getting lost and going down some of those little countryside roads definitely can bring you some beautiful, beautiful landscapes and ocean views. And I love that all throughout the island, they still have people who will put their little vendor boxes out at not always. I was going to say at the end of their driveways. They're not always there. Sometimes you have to turn in or whatever, and you can just grab your fresh eggs, grab your fresh produce, lots of pickles and jams and things like that. And it's all on the honor system. So a lot of them have tap now, or you can just put your cash in their little safe deposit box, or whatever you want to call those, cash box. But one thing that we noticed more than ever before on our last trip there is that people are putting in the sweetest little personal touches. So one place that we stopped at, the lady had hand painted all of the little jam jars, and they're all just little kind of souvenirs of PEI with little images and you know, little paintings, and they all say PEI on them. And there were little things like that all over, handmade cards or little handmade watercolor prints, just lots of really fun things, some bookmarks and stuff like that. So if you want to get lost somewhere and just explore, PEI is a great place to do that. So that is my story of my memory conversation starter. And so this is obviously not PEI. This is where I would call home, which is Ottawa. I would actually say the Ottawa Valley is where I'm from, but Ottawa is what most people know, and I'm definitely very comfortable in Ottawa. That is my home. And so this particular layout is some pictures of my kiddos and my nieces and nephews at Parliament Hill and at the big Ottawa sign in the market. So I know I folded the pictures in half, and I always get grief for that from people, but it's okay. I promise. I fold those pictures in half rather than cutting them, because the truth is, if I'm going to cut them, I'm just going to cut them and then tape them back to each other, back to back, so that I have one picture that can flip. And so since I'm doing that anyways, I might as well just fold them in half. And so far my pictures have never ripped or creased along the fold. I always make sure to put some tape along that edge too, so it kind of holds it down and they're not bubbling up or buckling up. But yes, I do fold them, and then I added that acetate because the background paper is ledger paper, so I thought it looked kind of cool with some writing on it, and it kind of looks like it's coming out of my little wonky folded envelope. And yeah, that's my layout. So I spent most of my time chatting to you about my memory, but that was the point of this inspiration piece. I hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you so much for watching. Please check out everybody in the links down below, and until next time, happy scrapping. Bye.